Good evening, everybody. Good Thursday evening, and welcome to Everyday Magic. I'm sitting here hanging out and watching these videos, and I should have gave you a warning that I can see what goes on backstage.
Oh, I remember. Like maybe I should wear a hat.
I was sitting there going, well, I hope that she gets this hat situation figured out before the video ends.
I'm such a dork. Well, you know, whatever. I guess it's going to be a hat then.
It's going to be
There
a
we
hat
go.
thing. Normally, I wear hats. Hats is an in thing, right?
Right, right. Well, I just do my own thing. I've got this one. I'm
Good
just the
evening,
hat lady.
everybody, and thank you for tuning in tonight. I see people are starting to trickle in. Hello, Mary Beth. How are you doing this evening? Elizabeth, good evening to you.
Yay.
Raven Stone, good evening. How is everybody? Well, good morning, I think. Good morning. I think in Australia it's probably morning there. Mary Beth saying hello to everybody. Uh, so good evening, everybody. I want to welcome my new friend.
Yay.
I just kind of got introduced to you the other day. I mean, we've been friends for a while,
Yeah.
and I knew that you've done some singing in a blues band, and but I didn't know this other side of you until you shared YouTube uh, video into the new group that I created, and I thought this is very interesting, and I can relate to a lot of what you were saying. So everybody, please welcome Fairlight DeTorres to the show. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight and sharing some space with us.
Yay. I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Sid. I appreciate it.
I haven't done these kind of shows in a long time, and I really missed it. So I thought I need to start bringing doing these again. These everyday magic. I used to call them the witches hour, and
Cool.
I used to bring witches from all across the globe onto shows and talk to them about some of their belief backing and what's their path and what kind of journey they're on right now. So we're going to start off. I'm going to ask you to kind of introduce everybody that's tuning in. Tell us a little bit about your background and what are your gifts.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to say, like, this is the first time I've done a show like this. I've done radio interviews as a singer, but and of course, everybody wants to message all at once. So let me see. I always have been a singer, just always, always. It started getting into witchcraft about 21 years old or so. My first ex-husband, we had been friends in high school, and I had no, I said that side of him, I had no idea. And I started learning fairy magic, and I had like a some real, I mean, we see miracles when you open yourself up to magic. You see that miracles like do happen, and that's just, everything is its own story. And then fast forward, we ended up moving to Virginia, and I had a huge magical awakening with, she called herself the mother of the birds, and she's, the goddess. And so that's been, I've just, and then I got pregnant with my oldest child, who's 21 now. And it really went crazy. The magic and the pregnancy and these beings that I gave birth to. I have 4 kids, and with each one, I certainly, I mean, I feel like all of us mothers were portals, and these beings I brought through, kind of made me crazy. They were just, it was intense. And then through, trying to have a family with marriages, I was married twice, and then, but really it was when I became a single mom and my children became my partners, that the healing really, really began. And so I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. When I had my second daughter, Cass, who will be 20 in like a week, a little over a week, um, I think that's about around the time that I started practicing Pleiadian lightwork. And I books, they just like vibrate to you. And there were 2 books. One was by Barbara Marciniak, called uh, Keys to the Living Library. So I'm trying to remember. Keys to the Living Library. It's called Earth, and it was just one of those profound books that just changed. When you read truth, and that wasn't my first Pleiadian experience. Actually, my first Pleiadian thing, I was given some Pleiadian cards when I was 19.
Now, explain that
Um,
the
with
Palladium,
hmm?
the Palladium, is that what you said?
Pleiadians, yeah.
Explain what that is.
Okay, so there's all these constellations, and there's a cluster of stars called the Pleiades, and I don't know how to quite explain it. When I first was gifted these cards when I was 19 years old, um, I wasn't in a consciousness to accept, like aliens or star seeds or anything like that. But the beauty that was in the cards and with the book that came with it all, like when truth rings like a bell. There's just something very musical about truth, and really it's a vibrational universe. Tesla, I love Nikola Tesla. He talked about think in terms of frequency and vibration. And so I would read the messages on these cards and do the meditations that came with it. And it just began altering me. And I started understanding how light, doing visualizations, utilizing light really did make me change and make me understand, and the truth that would come through. And again, it just rings like a bell. And so then I had to like separate it. Well, okay, this part is true, but the alien thing isn't real. And even now, like I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything other than frequency and vibration. That's the most important thing. It's learning about sovereignty by attuning yourself to your authentic vibration and frequency. And it's what we were talking about before we came on camera about how that there is like frequency control. I hate being so conspiratorial, but
Well,
there's something that
I do too. And to be fair, look, to be fair, Fairlight,
yeah.
I'm the same way too, because I there's these kind of subjects are touchy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And sometimes there's so many different points of views that it can sometimes create a little bit of chaos, right?
Right.
So I agree with you there.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like I guess so. The Pleiades. It just I just know that I there was a lot of truth, and then I got the Barbara Marciniak book, and then I got more of her books. And what I like is the way they spoke of light, and this was before I'd ever heard anybody talk about being a light worker. It might have been in those books. And I love the way she presented it, or, as she channeled, that light is information. And so there's no good or bad or whatever. Light is information. And so, sometimes my guides like to expound on that. So like if you walk into a dark room, you just lack information about what the room is. You don't know if there's stairs going up or down, or if there's a floor, or if there's objects in the room, but you light a candle and you have some information. You illuminate the room, you have lots of information. So light is just information. But dark serves us because that's where the imagination lies, because anything could be in that room. And so when you harness both inside of you, you accept that you are dark and you are light, and your complete self-acceptance, that's when we can start being authentic. We attune ourselves to our authentic vibration frequency.
I like what you just said there.
Thank you.
Because I've run across quite a few light workers.
Yeah.
Throughout the few years that I've been in the community. And there seems to be, for me, what I've noticed, there seems to be a lot of light workers that don't like to really touch on the dark aspects of their personality. Right. It's almost at times that they don't like to acknowledge it. And I don't know if it's just something that I've noticed. I don't know if you've noticed it as well.
Oh no, I've noticed it. I noticed it in myself, and it's just I'm a channel, and so a lot of times stuff would come through me that was not my truth, or I didn't think it was my truth, but it was coming through when I was channeling for somebody else. And it's like once it was spoken, and again, truth has a resonance, and so and my guides had to work with me to learn to accept my darkness and to recognize just because something's put in the shadows doesn't mean it isn't there. And if you shine a light on it, you'll see yourself, this cowering, scared little kid. No, I can't look at that. And so much of it. And how much is in the shadow? Our sexuality. Why are we so ashamed of what we are? Why are we sinners for being what we are? Like the whole sinner thing really fucking pisses me off. Rawr, we're not sinners. Divinity is not outside of you. But I look at it as there were some very skilled magic users who wanted to learn about how far they could take their power, and they discovered that the first way you take power over others is you steal their divinity from them, because divinity is a flow. Creation is a flow. Sexuality is a flow. It's all creation energy. It's all creation energy. So it's like we all know that there's that. We know there's that. And so then when these people say, well, let me define it for you, it's this thing, but it's not you. It's outside of you. And we'll call this thing God. We'll call this thing Father. And we'll tell you, Father loves you. Father loves you. And everybody's like, yeah, I know that love. I know that love. And then they said, Father also judges you and criticizes you, and he will punish you. So then we're all mind fucked into believing, associating love with judgment and punishment
And fear.
and fear. Well, and then that's the other side. Then how do we prove to God that we love him? How do we prove to Father our love? By fearing him and obeying him.
I was
So,
getting I was going to put an emphasis to that.
yeah.
Is there ever proving to the, let's say, for example, and I'm not judging or singling any one certain religion out, but with Christianity, they say, for instance, it's easier to find a needle in a haystack than someone getting into heaven.
Yeah.
So when I hear that, that makes it, to me, it almost sounds like I'm waiting for Tom Cruise to pop out with a Mission Impossible theme, when you see that little wick burning down, going, well, this seems like an impossible task.
Right.
Why make it? If you love us so much, why are you making it so difficult to get to where you want us to be?
Right, right. Well, and it's just like when you start to really look at it, like what is love? What is divinity? When I think of love and divinity, my first place, when I'm in that space of love, my first thought isn't, oh, this is judgmental and punishing and fearful. I must obey. Those are such different, they're so again, vibration and frequency. What feels like divinity? Love, truth, truth. I love, in one of those books it says love is allowing, and
Yeah,
that was a hard one for me to
love
accept.
is allowing
Allowing.
and accepting.
Yes, yes. Whew, and we are free, and
And that's really key. And I like that you brought that up, because I talk a lot when people see a lot of my posts. I really try to trigger emotions.
yeah.
You know, yes, you may be going through a hard time, and you want to be in a better place. But what kind of frequency are you putting out in the universe for you to receive these gifts in? Are you truly accepting of who you are as a being? That means your faults, your goods, your bads, and the ugly stuff. You have to be able to say, I'm comfortable with this. Yes, I made mistakes. I found the lessons in the mistakes that I've made, and you try to learn on it. But as people, we have a tendency to hang and cling on to things for way too long. It
Right.
becomes second nature to us, and we have a hard time letting go and accepting, or we file it away in our mental cabinet in our brains, and think if we put it away and shove it in the back of this file, we'll never see it again. But they don't realize that years down the road, that trauma, that file that you put back in, rears its ugly head.
It really does, and it shows up because when I'm doing palm reading, my guides have called it trauma logs, and so it's like we become so self-protective that we lock ourselves away, and it's almost like we disassociate from the trauma. We just want to protect ourselves and lock ourselves away, but instead we end up locking ourselves in with the trauma.
Yes.
And so then it comes out as like cancer, or will manifest it in all kinds of like weird scenarios that are mirroring back to us, because reality is a mirror, mirroring back to us our fears and our beliefs. And so again, it's that vibrational frequency thing. And then just learning to, well, accepting that darkness. Now what's coming up out of the darkness now, instead of shoving it down, saying no, 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 that's not there, having the courage and the trust. Man, we don't really cultivate enough trust, but we can cultivate it.
Or maybe the understanding that maybe the way that you're seeing these bad things maybe is the wrong way of looking at it.
Right.
For example, we think of it this way: if something bad happens in your life, and I get it, there's traumatic things that happen in your life, And I think that we cling on it so much because those bad things really don't happen as often as you think. We
Right.
cling on to it because why? My theory is because it doesn't happen as often as we think it does, and we hold on to those certain memories of those big major traumatic things that's happened in our lives when we tend to forget all the small little good things that brought us joy. And
Right.
maybe it's that we have so many good things in our life that we got used to it, and when the bad things happen, it fucks the flow up.
Right. Right. Well, and there's just so many ways that it happens. Like, um, when I was in that first marriage, and of course both of them were pretty toxic marriages. No, but because we're all fucked up. But and so I went to talk to like a healthcare, a mental health care worker, and she talked with me for a while. She said the only thing wrong with you is that you have PTSD, and she said you're so accustomed to things having traumatic results, or being in traumatic environments, that when things are fine, you don't know how to accept things being fine. You don't know how to live in that. So you'll create problems out of nothing because that's how you know how to operate. You're just living in constant fight or flight. And that was like whew,
That's
huge.
heavy because
Yeah.
you actually sabotaged
Yeah.
your own happiness,
Right.
and you don't
Right.
even know that you're doing it, and then it becomes a program in your head. You
Right.
have to go back and unprogram the things that you program yourself into doing.
Man, it's so true. And then we tend to partner up with our fellow traumatized beings.
And then it creates sometimes even bigger
Right.
problems.
We reinforce each other's beliefs about everything being so awful. And really we're just going back and forth and doing it together.
Let's bounce to a few comments here inside the
Okay.
chat. Elizabeth Dexter says, there is something I have learned through my lifetime. Forgiveness is a key to love. When someone does us wrong, we need to search out healing, and a part of that is not dismissing those who have hurt us or caused trauma, but forgiving them,
Yeah.
not hating them, and reserving a space in our hearts with love. That way, when someone or a circumstance comes up or is triggered, we can remind ourselves they are in the love space.
Right. I like that.
I do too. That's
Yeah.
way to put that right there, Elizabeth. That's really spot on.
It is. And it reminds me of a Facebook conversation I got into where I was like suggesting that somebody loved themselves because they were another entertainer, and he was worried about his body. And like, we're all, among so many other things, we're in this paradigm, this culture of body dysmorphia, where we're just never good enough.
Because we spend way too much time thinking about how someone thinks our worth is
I,
and not valuing
I,
our own worth.
exactly.
Never let someone put a price tag on you.
Exactly. Prove right, letting the outside world decide our worth when it's an inside job, man. And so I was having this conversation, or I had suggested, why don't you just love yourself anyway and fuck what anybody else thinks. And this other guy came after me. Oh, you guys and your love, and that's so cringy, and when you hate yourself. And I'm like, look, man, it's not like, oh, just love yourself. It's not fucking like that, man. It's a discipline, looking in the mirror every day and facing the
Yes.
program, looking in your eyes and saying, I love you, I love you. And then watching all the lies come up that say, you're not allowed to love yourself. You're selfish if you love yourself.
I say
Your
this
love is for
all the time.
everyone else.
I've even put challenges out here in the community for people to how to unprogram themselves. I challenge them to get up out of bed in the morning, and I want them to look themselves in the mirror.
Yes.
No brushing of the hair, no brushing of the teeth.
Yay.
You're coming straight out of the bed into the bathroom, and you're looking yourself in the mirror, and you're saying, "Sid, I love you."
Yes.
And then
Yes.
enough times of you doing that every single morning, you're unprogramming, and you're rewiring your train of thought, and that's very, very important because you have to love yourself
You do. Yeah.
unconditionally before you ever find any sort of sliver of happiness in your material world, your life, your universe.
Truly, truly, because it's always that proving, 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 but you're never enough. And even when people say you're enough, I love how the tarot put it last summer. They were like, they had the Five of Pentacles and the Ten of Pentacles. And of course, we would never rate ourselves, but the tarot's like, so let's make fun of that. And it's like, if you're raised in an environment where you believe you're a five, your whole life, and your family treats you like a five, and your whole life, and you walk through the world as a five, you can walk into a room where everybody sees you as a 10, and you won't know how to receive it.
I
On the
still,
other hand,
I
you
still
work.
don't to this day. It's a struggle even to this day.
Right. So it
Even
is.
for
It
me.
is. Yeah. And but I'm sure even with the struggle today, because I struggle with it too. And that's what I had said to this guy. Like, it's not just easy; it's a discipline. You've got to really be
Put in.
committed to learning what love is, because that's how you come into sovereignty. That's how you know you're worthy of being the authority in your life. And so on the other hand, you get really good at the self love, and I've gotten to where I'll be like, not only do I love you, but I've got you. No matter what, I've got you. And then I'm always embarrassing myself. And so I'll leave the party and I'll be like, I can't believe I did that. And then I have to be like, I got you.
I,
And it
I
was
have
funny.
lived. I have lived my childhood was rough with my family. I was told I've always been told at a young age, and I love my dad, and I bless his soul. And I miss him,
Yeah.
but me and his relationship was a really hard relationship to really accept, because when your parent says that, I wish you was never born,
What?
that one time, it really all it takes, and that forever changes your mentality of who you're going to be as an adult. And it took me years to actually get over. And finally, what you said earlier about finding that beauty in yourself and accepting it, it's hard. It's hard to say, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of
Right.
work to reprogram yourself to say, hey, you're not number two anymore. You're number one.
You're number one.
You are good
Right.
enough. You are that 10. You're that 11. You're that 12. You're that 13.
That's exactly what I say. I say, I'm a 10, motherfucker.
And
Matter of
it's
fact, I'm
hard.
an 11.
When you live your life with that kind of with trauma like that, it sinks in. Your brain absorbs it, and you never forget it. And then subconsciously, you live the rest of your life thinking that you're not good enough. My first wife. This is how the testament of what you're saying is true, because my mentality is I was never good enough for anybody. My first wife was the type of person that she would tell me, I'm not good enough for anybody else but me. You're a hot mess. Nobody likes you. You're an asshole. You're a dick. Your family don't even like you. So what would you think that anybody else besides me would ever love you?
Wow.
And I got with her when I was 18 years old. And I spent 22 years under this programming
Wow.
until I decided I had enough was enough, and I needed to stop. I needed to stop her enabling me through my bad habits, and I left.
Good for you. How do you feel?
A lot better.
Good.
But it's a journey with anything. If you want to get anything out of life, you have to put the work in. It's not going to be pleasant. It's
Right.
not going to be fun at times. There's going to be moments of fun, right? When you finally when you're going working through something and you get to that other end, there's that big reward.
Right.
And that's when the fun and the excitement and the energy of what you went through is infiltration, right? You're reaping the rewards. But sometimes during that journey from point A to point B, it can be very hard,
Right.
because you have to be honest with yourself and how you want to make a better you. And sometimes you have to look at that shit that you don't want to look at. For me, in my case, it was things that I've done. I did a lot of bad things to people, and I had to work. How do I make myself a better person?
Right. God. It's not for the faint of heart, but that's what we're here for. And when we can understand that we're processing generational curses, like when we acted like the worst things we could be, and then we come to a place and we recognize that that's not the truth of what we want to express. I mean, that right there is growth. And so it's like I feel like we came here when we did, and why we did, and like our parents and our kids and all of this, we're all working together. But I feel like especially people our age, our Gen X fucking asses, um we are here to like bridge. We had to live through the toxic programs, we had to live through all of this stuff so that we could, and then go through the shift to recognize what is truth and what is illusion. And whatever people say is truth for them, but what rings as like a bell as truth for you. And so there's so much that wants to come through, but but coming back to that truth ringing like a bell. And 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 then now, I have a friend who passed away, but he was my age, he was my lifelong best friend, Shenandoah. And he always had a sign hanging up, and I quote it like almost every day. And it says, good judgment comes from experience. Experience comes from poor judgment. And if you can just keep that, like, then there's never a mistake. There's never anything to hate. There's all forgiveness because we're all learning. We're all growing. You didn't know then what you know now, but how the fuck could you have learned it if you hadn't done what you did then?
Just
You
change
know?
your perception of how you see things is really
Thank you.
key to growth, really, right? Let's get to another comment here into the chat.
Okay.
We have Elizabeth Dexter here says, someone once told me, who is there with you at the end of the day? Who has been there with you through everything that day? You.
Yeah.
Love yourself. It's your life. You depend on you. You always got yourself. I like how she's saying yourself.
I like that.
One of the best things I've been told. So true.
Blessed be.
At the end of the day, there is nobody that's going to be standing over you when you fall with the extended hand saying, I'm going to help you up. You got to want to get back up.
Right.
You're going to have to
Right.
knock the dirt off your shoulder and say, you know what? I may have failed this time. My path to sobriety wasn't just a plain and simple path to sobriety. I've
Right.
been clean 7 years now, but I was addicted to pills for almost a decade.
Oh shit.
So
Congratulations.
that process of having to, kind of rediscovering yourself, you kind of like you don't realize that there's nobody when you're at your lowest and point in your life where everybody that's around you has turned their back on you because of the things that you've done and the things that you did and the things that you're still doing. You only are left with yourself. You have to look yourself in the mirror and go, fuck,
Right.
what have I become?
Right.
What have I done to myself?
Right.
I don't want to be that guy when they say, oh, they see me coming down the street, they go, oh fuck, there's Sid, let's go in the house. I want to be that guy, and then when they see me walk down the street, goes, that's Sid. I want to hang out with that guy. He's
Right.
got something that I can maybe learn from him. So I had to reprogram myself to tell myself that I have value. And
Right.
it's not the value what people think of me, but the value I have of myself. Do I love myself enough to say, you got this and keep going? I failed many times in my past sobriety,
Same.
but I kept telling myself, you know what? It's okay. It's okay. No one said there's not a book that says you can knock this disease the first time around. There's
Right.
no book. You got to
Right.
you fall off the wagon, you get back up, get on the horse, and you try and try again. There'll be that one time where all of a sudden something clicks and it's gone. But you
Right.
don't know and you won't find it unless you keep pushing forward.
Right. Keep attuning to your truth. Keep attuning to your truth. And it's interesting to me how many witches and folks who have found a more sovereign, individualized way of connecting to our own divinity, whatever word, spirituality, all the words. How many of us have gone through substance abuse? And so I've got kind of a take on that too. um, our ancestors and our tribal people, they used plant medicine for the purpose of connecting. They for healing, and even our healers, our medicine women and medicine men, they would go into the spirit realm and sometimes use these plant and fungus allies, and they would interact on our behalf, and sometimes even as empaths, they would take it upon themselves. They would heal the person, take it into themselves. The person would be cured, the villager, whatever, and they'd go back to the village. And then the medicine person would go to nature and commune in spirit and then clear themselves of the malady, or, the malicious spirit, or however it was looked at. And so, even though I've had several different substance abuse problems, but the big one was alcohol. And I even had a meth problem because I loved drinking so much. I discovered I could get drunk and then do meth, and then I'd sober up and I could keep drinking. Like it was bad.
You found yourself a cycle to enable
I
yourself.
did, yeah, exactly. And I remember many years of trying recovery and failing, or being in recovery and I never went in through any particular program. Usually I got pregnant and then I'd get sober. But
It was me going to jail.
yeah, I mean, we all have our, um,
That's when I had my wake up moment, and I told myself when I went to jail the last time that I went to jail. It's been years ago.
yeah,
But the last time I went to jail, I got. That's when I said, "All right, I'm done. I'm done." It was one of those. I seized the opportunity. I was going to do a little bit of time, so I seized the opportunity to say, you know what? Time to change my mindset. Time to
right,
change my way of thinking. And from this point over, there's not going to be no more of that.
right. And
No,
it's deciding. It's I making the decision. I decide that I'm willing to change. And like there's another, like all these books, Louise Hay, it was like she was one of the big self-help people in the 80s, but her book You Can Heal Your Life, that's where I learned about mirror work, learning self-love by looking in the mirror and changing what the eyes, because there does come a time, like first you see all the lies coming out of your eyes, but then you keep with it enough, and eventually it's like something shifts, and you go to the exercise, you go to the mirror and you say I love you, and the eyes looking back mean it. And the first time that happens, it's like your whole life changes. And once you can feel that self love, it just shifts. Suddenly you want to live, you want to create, and the more you accept yourself as a creative being, and the more you give yourself permission to create, um, you know, it's like, of course, everybody wants to message me now.
it's funny that you say that because there's. I mean, we all have our different views on how what we think
Mhm.
that level of creativity is and the mindset of what when you're doing this. Now, I'm, I'm a firm believer that our lives are not predestined; they're not predetermined.
Right,
I'm,
right,
I'm a firm believer that there's opportunities to go down that predetermined path, I guess, or you could be that person that thinks outside the box and says, "Hey, you know what? I control my own destiny. I control my own decisions. I decide what I'm going to do as far as my next level of me growing as a person."
right,
We tend to bottom ourselves off and cap ourselves off, and we tell ourselves, we can't do this. And forgive me for this once again. I'm not trying to single out one certain religion here,
oh, I do it.
but with Christianity, they kind of sort of cap you off like a bottle, right? They shake you
Yeah,
up. They shake you up like a 2 liter pop bottle, and then they fucking keep you capped up, and you got all this built in that you know that you could do, but you're being held back because they're telling you that no, you can't do this, you can't do that. You have to follow what God tells you to do, and I
right,
think that's always been my wall when it comes to Christianity. Is I don't like to be limited for somebody to say, hey, you cannot do this, you cannot. A part of learning is absorbing all the information that you can take in. And that
right,
does not just mean either Christianity, Satanism, paganism. This means everything. A fool will focus on one thing, and that's God. A
right,
smart and wise man explores all options of their own path. And that's where I always hit the wall when it comes to churches and Christianity. I don't like being told that you can't do this when I know damn good and well I can do whatever I want to, and it don't have to be with God. I can do it
Right.
on my own.
Right.
I'm the creator of my own universe. I'm the center of my universe.
Right. Right. And I'm a pantheist. I feel that God, goddess, all that is, it's all that is. It's all that is. And there's no way there's like God, goddess, all that is, all this amazing creation flowing energy. And then there's me, the sinner. I just don't think it works like that.
It didn't.
And there's a few things I like to say about Christianity. The first thing was like when I was about 14 or 15, and I love my dad so much, and he was a Catholic, but I mostly lived in Colorado with my mom. My dad, for some reason, Catholic, lives in Utah. So I claimed loyalty to being a Catholic just because I loved my dad until I was about 14 or 15. And I was like, wait a minute, there's the Father and the Son, but Mother isn't God. Mother is just a vessel. Mother isn't, you know what I mean? I'm like, that's fucking bullshit.
It sounds
I was
what
pissed off right there.
it sounds to me, and for me, it sounds like the mentality of that time age, where women weren't seen, wasn't heard. You did
Right.
you did your thing, and that was mothering the children and being the foundation of a household. And there wasn't. That's what the Bible reminds me of. Everything is based around
Patriarchy.
yes.
The suppression of the feminine, and anytime the feminine comes into power, they burn them at the stake, they drown them, they throw them off a cliff, they put them in an insane asylum. She's crazy. That's devil shit.
He
It's the
told me.
devil.
She
That's why
told me no. So she's going to. We're going to drag her outside and we're going to lynch her because she must be a witch. And this
right.
must be the devil's work because she told her husband no. No, what it is
Right.
that she has a free will and a mind of her own, and she's allowed to have thoughts and
Right.
feelings and
Well, and
passion.
more than that, I it is kind of a conspiracy thing, but I believe there was an agenda to suppress the feminine because the feminine is so fucking powerful. And even predating any of these patriarchal Abrahamic religions, everyone, there's always an honoring of the divine feminine, the divine mother. God isn't a fucking man. Everything is born of the mother. Everything is born of the mother. Yet people are so mind fucked into thinking, into fearing, afraid to even consider. So let's talk about Christianity for a minute. One, Jesus, he spoke Aramaic. And in Aramaic, his name wasn't even Jesus because the J sound doesn't even exist. So it's more like Yeshua or Yeshua. And the Lord's Prayer, I love that the universe is like, here, let's give you this. So in Aramaic, the Lord's Prayer began, Abun de Boashmaya. And I'll just say that again. It's so beautiful. Abun de Boashmaya. So you look up the translation of Abun de Boashmaya. It's, O birther who dwells in the light. Jesus was praying to the mother. And people can come after me all you want, but O birther, men don't get birth. Sorry.
It's I've always felt that God for me wasn't a man. It's not a male figure. It's a female aspect. That's my feelings about it. I've always
Yeah.
felt that way. I don't acknowledge there being a God. I acknowledge that there is a universe and there is a higher power.
Right.
I always say always call it a her.
I thank you. I think that's beautiful. It's all born from the mother. And I've been shown like we need the polarities because ultimately it's oneness, and we all have feminine, we all have masculine, we all are that, regardless of what we present physically. But they, my guides have shown me like, look at how a battery operates. You need equal parts of feminine and masculine. And this comes back to the dark and the light. The dark is the feminine, the light is the masculine. The dark is the place where it's the womb. It's the womb. It's the place of infinite possibilities, all potentialities. It's where the seed gets implanted. It's where it all comes out of. And then the masculine is the activating force, the light. And so, like, you look at a battery, they need to be equal parts, feminine and masculine. And so the masculine activates the current, the feminine receives the current. And the real magic is what happens in between, where the feminine gives to the masculine, so that the masculine can activate the current and the feminine can receive the current.
I like that analogy. I like how you presented that.
Thank you. It's
I want to get to a
channel.
comment here, and I think it's
Okay.
interesting to point this out with Elizabeth Dexter. Once again, says, no offense, but God is not a woman or a man because she does not exist. This Christian God does not exist. I,
Totally. Yeah.
I agree
Yeah.
100% on this,
Totally.
Elizabeth. I just refer to the universe, and I always looked at her as a female. She's giving life, she's giving opportunities. I always just looked at the universe as being a female in my life. Now, I 100% agree with Elizabeth, but there is no Christian God for
I
me.
agree.
There is
Yeah, I agree.
just
Totally.
the Bible for me personally speaking, is a book to control people.
Yep, exactly.
Not only that, but not to bash the Bible, because I will say right now there's a few good things about the Bible.
Right.
But for instance, it's a guidebook of life. Tells you what's right and from what's wrong. It kind of gives you a little bit of a moral compass. It's wrong to kill somebody. Like the Ten Commandments, for instance. We
Right.
all know the Ten Commandments: obey your mother, father, thou shalt not kill. These are kind of like guidelines a bit to be in a society that was ever so growing and really chaotic at this time. I mean, there was murder in the streets, there were stonings, there were hanging of crosses.
Right.
There were just they had to find some sort of control.
Right.
So I get it. I get it a little bit. What it's kind of like, sort of like a moral compass, a bit. But with any book of history, and it dates back even before the Bible, the Maganagi, the five branches of the Maganagi, they're all stories to help guide you in life. They give you examples of things that people characters have gone through, that for you to take, okay, bits and pieces of what they're trying to teach you and take it into for your own practice, kind of guide you a bit. None of it's real. None of it's real.
No.
They're stories, and back then there was no movies. There were none of this. There was probably even stage performances. There was just people building a religion, building beliefs that they need these bigger than life characters to create these big images and stories. You know what I mean? And people blur that line. They think that this stuff is factual and real, but in reality, it's all man written, and
It's all man written. Yeah.
they're just books like an Anne Rice book or a Tom Clancy.
Right. Right. An interview with a vampire, Leviticus. No. Yeah. And I'll just clarify, like, I didn't say it was a man or a woman. I just said it's all born from the mother. All is born from the mother. Life comes forth from the mother. So I say it's a mother energy. But yeah, I don't mean to anthropomorphize it too much. I say creation is, and it's a flow. And we are that flow. We are creation energy. It's flowing. We're channels. All of us are channels. And the more we engage with art, music, dance, anything, the more we engage with the flow and we allow this energy to flow through us, the more we are connected to what we are, which is creation energy, which is all that is.
Elizabeth,
La, la, la.
Elizabeth here also has another comment. Says we are all gods.
Yep.
Now, for some people who tune into this later or watching it now, that would be scary, and people would judge that little comment right there, because the Satanic Bible actually preaches about this. They talk about how we are gods, and that we are the weavers of. And I take these, and I'm not a Satanist. I'm not, but
No.
to be able to grow, you have to be able to learn different things and learn everything about spirituality and or religion at that case at all as well. So that I like how she said it. We are gods, because we are gods. We
Yeah,
need to treat ourselves like
we are.
a god or a goddess. Treat yourself accordingly. We forget to do that.
Well, and even like, it's funny because I love the being, the Christed being, Jesus or whatever, Isho, Yeshua, whatever name you want to use, that being, that love, that being that loved and whatever. And like I had this big channeling session with that energy. And he said, I went out and I did all these miracles. And I didn't say, look what I can do. I did all these miracles and I said, look what you can do. And he said,
Yes.
why isn't the church teaching that? Why isn't the church teaching that? Look what you can do. We all are manifestors of miracles. Why are we not being trained to do that by this religion who supposedly is about this being? You know? And how often did he go to church? From what I read, he went to church once to out the hypocrites. But anytime he went to pray, like I tried to give Christianity a chance. And like every time I opened up that book, it either said something that was so completely insulting to my soul, or it talked about Jesus and all these beautiful things. And anytime he went to pray, then he went to the wilderness. Then Jesus went to the
He was
wilderness.
a witch.
Then he went to the wilderness. Then he went to the wilderness. Nature was his church.
He was a
He
pagan.
went to nature to connect with God, God is all that is, with the Abun, Devosh Maya.
Isn't that ironic? Really, if you think about that, really think about that, is that he, in essence, he was a pagan. The,
Yeah.
the character Jesus was a pagan, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
He always went to nature. He'd come to the city, gather up, meet people, do his witch healing. Because I really firmly believe that character was a witch.
Yeah.
Because witches are healers, right? For the
Totally.
most part. For the most part, I mean, there's different practices and different paths, but for the majority of witches, they're healers. They don't want to harm anybody. They don't want to hurt. They want to help. They want to, and that's what
Right.
Jesus did, right? The character
Right.
Jesus did that. He helped. He gave hope to people.
Exactly. Well, and that's another point. Like, you know, the loving being and the love that it's all supposed to be about, and the reason why people so cling to it is that being and the love and all the stuff that he talked about. But like you look at Buddhism, and what's the symbols for, for Buddha? It's the Buddha sitting in quiet repose. Like you look to these other religions and they're really promoting a peace and a connectedness. And then you've got Jesus, and it's all about death and torture and it's like the scariest fucking shit. And so in that channeling session, he was like, they're not promoting me. This is a warning. This is a subliminal warning. This is what'll happen to you if you act like him. So rar.
I think it's cool. I think it's, and this wasn't really the plan, I guess, for the
No.
show. And I'm totally fine with that because apparently the universe wanted us to talk about this because that
Yeah.
really was the plan. We were going to talk about the stuff that you do and in your YouTube channel that you started and all this, but I really like how the universe has its flow.
Yeah.
And with conversations, it's organic, right?
Right.
And that's the beauty of what we're doing tonight. Well, this wasn't our topic, folks, and
No, I appreciate it. It's really not what I talk about either. I talk about time being bullshit, and I talk a lot about sovereignty and using your voice. And I'm
but
glad that you had me on here.
we're doing that, right? We're
Yeah,
using
yeah,
our voice right now. We're speaking our freedom. Our freedom of speaking our speech,
right,
our given right as pagans. For me, the definition for pagans I know is the nature dwellers, right? I get that, but
right.
for me, it's a different meaning. Paganism for me is simply just one word, and that's freedom.
Yes. Ooh, now, yeah, we are free. We are free.
And so that gives us options to be able to explore ourselves and what the universe has to offer. And so it's good to be able to have these conversations like this.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I love, I love this.
Now, let me ask you your opinion. What are your thoughts? And we're going to talk a little bit about the current events that's going on around the world right now.
Yeah.
Now, what are your thoughts about the numbers? Now, we know we had this the other day, it was 22, right?
Right.
Numbers. And there's one of the meanings of that date is the coming of power. The coming of
Oh,
power. Now, ironically enough, that same day, Russia decided it's going to start saying it's going to start a war with
right.
Ukraine. Now, do you think what is the possibility that these numbers? And I also told you before the show as well. I did some research about Nostradamus, and his
Right.
predictions of 2/22/22 of the day. I'm sorry, of 2022, the year prediction, right? And we
Right.
talked about. I told you there was like five things that he predicted, and I think it was like three of the two has sort of already come true at some level. The other three was I
Sorry.
get out. I'm doing it all the time.
Then she died right on the show. No,
It's not my
sorry.
fault,
Go ahead.
folks. Let me turn in. I didn't do it.
Yeah, no. Sorry.
Well, what do you think? There's some sort of connection with there's the 2/22 is a shift. Things are going to change. There's a rise to power. Nostradamus predicted in 2022 that there's going to be a cold war during 2022. The humans are going to start eradicating ourselves through nuclear weapons. And then the doomsday one for me was the asteroid hitting Earth. Now the chances of an asteroid hitting Earth, no, scientifically, there's nothing coming our way, right?
Right.
But they do predict in 2029 that there will be an asteroid going to be coming really, really close to Earth's atmosphere.
Man.
And so I'm sitting here thinking about all these things, right?
Right.
Today, as I'm watching some of the news feed from some of the attacks from Russia to Ukraine, and there was one particular one that really just hit me really hard. There was this couple looking out their window of their house, and about a maybe I don't know half a mile up the road, it looks like maybe a gas tank, like a gas station, was on fire.
Oh.
Next thing you know, a few seconds later, it explodes, and
Oh.
then once it explodes, it does another explosion, and it was like the sky was completely in flames.
Yeah.
How much do you think it's possible for someone like Nostradamus to be able to predict something like this so far ahead?
Oh, totally. I mean, well, totally. And that goes into like, God, that's a whole nother can of worms. And it's like, how do I just answer that? It's almost like I have to go out to come bring it back in. Um, oh gosh, and where do I? Okay, so there's a channel. The guy is Daryl Anka, but he channels an energy or a being called Bashar. And so Bashar explains time travel as it's not like Star Trek where the spaceships are flying through space. It's some more about to do with locating certain. Well, so I look at it as astrology basically. So I'm sorry, I'm like seeming to go somewhere else, but I'm trying to bring it back. But that's where I and I wanted to speak to something you said before about destiny. And sorry to make it, but I'll tie it back up. But with astrology, I feel like we do have free will. However, our natal charts, when we were born and where the planets are at, it's kind of like in this infinite expansion of being. You know, we come as individualized consciousness, and our natal chart is kind of like the classes we took this semester. And so that's why every one of us at times in our life will say, why does this keep happening to me? Because that's what we wanted to learn about. That's what we wanted to master. And so while we do have free will, we come to these destiny points collectively and individually, but it just individually we come to these destiny points where certain planets will hit our natal planets, and then it's like we have a choice. Do we want to go back and relearn what we've already learned and do the same thing over again, or do we want to recognize we have a choice to go on a new path? And it doesn't mean life is never challenging again, but we don't have to go back to what we went through before. So okay, so I say that just to bring in the astrology and how the planets move. And then there's an astrologer called the Leo King that I watched for years and years. And for like 3 years, from 2017, he had been saying, you just wait until January 2020. You just wait until January 2020. Pluto and Saturn are going to be conjunct in Capricorn. That hasn't happened since like the 1400s, and before that, it hadn't happened since the 1200s. And every time Pluto and Saturn go conjunct in Capricorn, there's a plague. holy fucking shit, was he right? And so, yes, I do feel like, and I don't know enough about Nostradamus, but I feel like he was so tuned in. And I don't know that he was an astrologer, but I get the sense that he probably was, because that was part of the magic back then. That was part of what that was the education, was studying these things. And so I feel like, because, and I look at the planets as, not even look at them, I experience the planets as also conscious beings who are here to evolve as well. And we're all going through this universal expansion and evolution together. We're all raising vibration and raising consciousness. It's music, it's all a song, it's all a beautiful song. And isn't it awful that down here on earth we're bombing the fuck out of each other? Like, get into the music, but that's part of it too. And you know I love esoteric, but I feel like there was a way for him to attune to, especially if he had the astrology in front of him of where the planets would be. He could totally project himself into the energy of 2022 and then actually experience visions of what is happening. I absolutely do believe that. Sorry, that was such a long
No,
explanation.
no, you're fine. I asked. There was a valid question. I was really wanting your take on what your thoughts were, because I believe
Thank
that
you.
someone can predict these things. That not it's what it can it be a coincidence? Maybe. I mean, maybe there. At this time, we know how men are. The mankind is we're destructive by nature,
Yeah.
and I think we have to work to being good. You know what I mean? Because that's just our nature. We have to work to be good. We have to work to do the right things. That at the end of the day, our core instincts is violence. We have to kill to eat. Maybe he just. My thoughts were at one point. Maybe he was able to just take a good guess, a lucky guess. He knows the pattern. Knows the pattern of men. What
Yeah.
What's ironic for me, that I when I've done a little bit of research, is that the Book of Revelations, right now, most people out there that are going to be living in fear of what's happening right now. There's we're teetering on World War III,
Right.
possibly. I mean,
Right.
things could change, but we're teetering on something that could be a potentially World War III. Now, some of these, like having one dictatorship, one world power leader is going to rise in the Book of Revelations. Okay, one world leader is going to rise, right? It says, and then it's all the major countries, the three major countries, which is China, Russia, and the United States, which they describe it in the Bible as animals, the
Oh.
dragon and eagle, or in the lion or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but they describe the countries as animals.
Oh. I'm
And
not even all that. I studied Jesus, I guess, and that was it.
well, like I said, I was going to be a youth minister at one time.
Oh shit.
So, but then again, once I figured out that there's more to this than what is in this Bible. So when I did my research, there's all this. You kind of seeing these things happen right now in the world.
Right.
These events that they talked about in Revelation are playing out, right? Well, during the time of the Book of Revelations, the guy who wrote it, his name was John, right? During this time, there was a lot of death, a lot of famine, a lot of war, and a lot of killings at this time.
Right.
He wrote this book. Jesus just died not long before that, and they was anticipating. None of this it was meant to be a fear tactic. It was meant to fear. It's supposed to send fear to the Romans, but give hope to the Christians that are still following Jesus, to keep his name still alive.
Yeah.
So it was actually propaganda,
Wow.
the Book of Revelations. But when you see the current events of the day, and you go back and read the Revelations, you kind of going, wait a second, is this just propaganda? Because some of the things that they talk about in the Bible, like the world, and Nostradamus predicted as well, that there's going to be a nuclear war.
Yeah.
The world is going, in the Bible, Revelations, it said the world is going to end by fire. The world's going to be engulfed in flames. The first was flooding. The last of the world of when Jesus is supposed to come, or God's supposed to come, the world's going to be engulfed in flames. Here
Oh.
we're seeing the explosions. We got superpower. The Russia has the most nuclear weapons in the whole world, more
Oh.
than the United States, more than any other country. They hold the most nuclear weapons. is it ironic or is it coincidence or is there something, it makes you question things, and that's good, right?
Right, right.
Just makes you
Man,
question things.
my brain always wants to disassociate because I try not to pay attention to what goes on in the world. Um, a couple things come through as you're talking about that. I lived in southern Utah for like a year and a half, as a mother of four, and somebody took me out. Actually, we were so close to the Arizona border. We were in Arizona, but just barely over the border, and they took me to like an ancient Anasazi site that was like at least 1,000 years old. I don't know, but it was ancient. And there were helicopters engraved, among other things, but it was the helicopter. I'm like, there's no, that's a fucking helicopter. And it was a pretty huge site. And I went through and all these different things. Um, so I don't know, that just opens up what is this dimension we're living in, and what is the truth of interdimensional existence, and like what is time. And so that's what brought me on here was this whole clock time is bullshit. um and I don't know. I know that I now I want to tell another personal story, but it speaks to this. I've done DMT twice in my life. Once was on my daughter's 18th birthday. It was March 7th, 2020, and we were at a waterfall in Western North Carolina, and and the DMT showed me, like, I have a meditation or mantra. I'm always seeing myself as a pillar of light. I'm always anchoring new information onto the planet and into the planet. And so it showed me in meditation, just saying over and over again, I'm always bringing light in and through my being. I'm always bringing light in and through my being. And then it began to spin out. And I don't know why it reminded me of like one of those old time music boxes where, it's like on a roller, and then it's got all these bumps, and then it goes through and it plays like a little tiny piano, and then it starts over again. And I don't know why it felt so much like that, but the way it rippled out from me, and then it like showed my kids, and then it went to like my friends and coworkers, and then it rippled all the way out, and Donald Trump was still president, and rippled all the way out to Donald Trump, and then it rippled back in and went through all the layers of reality and came back to me affirming, I'm always bringing light in and through my being. I'm always bringing light in and through my being. And I only felt good during this time when it had me centered within myself. And it rippled back out and it rippled back in, and it did that probably 3 or 4 times before I came out of the trip. And then I was by the waterfall again. So that was March 7th, 2020, just days before the lockdown, a week or so before the lockdown. The next time, the only other time I did DMT was spring equinox of 2020, so just days after the lockdown. And then I went to another waterfall with somebody else, and this time we had the waterfall to ourselves because everybody was on lockdown. And they showed me the exact same vision. DMT showed me the exact same vision, except instead of always bringing light in and through my being, I was surrounded by my kids. And it was like, and it rippled out like the music box, and then it rippled back in. And I was just, it was me and my kids. And so really that's what it showed, is that, the greatest effect you can have on reality is from right here and your immediate family, and what you do with them, and how you empower them, and how you love them. And there's really, we can go out, and I go to protests. I got tear gassed with my kids at a Black Lives Matter rally. Like I do, I'm all about activism, but I accept that the greatest we can do to affect reality is by recognizing that prime reality is within. And when we rise above that frequency control, when we rise out of fear, and I feel like the Bible really taught a lot of power hungry people how you control other people. And again, it's by stealing people's divinity and making them obey an authority.
Taking away
And
their free will.
take away your free will. Exactly. But when you understand that prime reality is within, and sovereignty is the truth, and authority is a lie, and it's like, but if you go out and challenge authority and you start da 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 da, you're actually agreeing that there's an authority that needs to be challenged. But when you say, you know what, your world, their world, whatever, snip, 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 and like really take an athame, take a selenite wand, sever ties. I sever ties from this. Prime reality is within. And I've got like a little song. Prime reality is within. And you really and you start going to nature and you step outside of the fabricated reality. You step out of the pavement. You step out of the fabricated buildings. Because man, the minute you step foot on pavement, you're in a fabricated, human fabricated reality. You go into buildings and it's obvious, but do we think about it? And then all the scenarios that happen in these buildings, so many scenarios are prefabricated. Somebody comes up and says, "Hi, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm fine. How are you?" You know, your line is, and then my line is, and then your line is. And so, like when I'm doing readings with people, I like to empower them by saying, you know, at any given moment, any one of us could just flip this table over or get up and start dancing or roll across the floor. And like maybe everybody else in the building may not like that, but just understanding that you've got choice at any given time. You've got choice, and you probably have more choices than you're letting yourself see. And how can I create in this moment and get comfortable with making people uncomfortable? And coming back into that sovereignty and going to nature and singing to the earth and putting your menstrual blood on the earth or putting your semen on the earth, activating the earth. I'm here to heal you. I'm here to grow you. I'm here to nourish you. And start talking with the earth. And whatever happens, happens. But at least you're in your sovereign truth. All right, I hear the music. Is it time to go?
Oh, no. I'm just setting the mood. It just feels appropriate.
Oh, okay.
I'll turn it down maybe a little bit.
Oh, no. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't running over.
Oh, we don't have to go until you're ready to go.
Oh, okay, cool, man.
I'm really enjoying the conversation right now. I'm enjoying picking your brain.
Thank you.
And this has been fun for me, and we're getting some really valuable information. We're not only I'm getting some, but people who are watching is getting some as well.
Thank you for this. I
firmly believe right now that we're in a time right now that we need to wake up.
I agree.
We need to wake up, be alert. It's time to take the blindfold that's been put over your heads, and it's time to remove it. I firmly believe that we are going to be the last generation on this earth.
Oh, I don't want to energize that.
I don't want to either, and I get that. And I think it's time that we people as a society need to wake up to what's going on around them, and quit letting people tell them what it is, and use your own judgment and your own eyes to see what's going on. America's, we're getting to face a lot of really dark challenges here in the coming up months.
Yeah.
We've already been facing a lot as it is with the COVID-19 and all that, the plague, basically what you said earlier, the plague. Yeah. We've been dealing with a lot right now as it is, right?
Right.
And it's going to get tougher. We were talking earlier about how this whole, even if it doesn't escalate to a world war, hypothetically, and it's just they're going in, and then maybe these sanctions will work, and maybe he'll back off, or maybe he won't. We don't know, right? It takes one press of a button to do a cyber attack and shut all of our government down. We can make our stock markets crash. They can shut communications down in our government. Well, if not only that scenario, but let's say the stock market does crash, that could lead into another epidemic, right? That's going to cause a total global economy crashes.
Yeah.
Then what?
Well, I look at it as this is, if that's all what happens, what greater thing to make people wake up and say, wow, we need to stop being victims to this fucking reality. We need to stop allowing ourselves to
we don't
be
want it to go that far, though, guys.
We're so fragile, we're so vulnerable to people who don't care about us. And that's why it's like releasing the belief in authority. And it's not about, like I said, don't go confront the authority, because then you're acknowledging an authority. But you just start focusing on prime reality is within, and don't even just start focusing on, like, I get a blank card a lot of times, and the tarot will say it's a blank canvas. What are you going to paint? What are you creating? There's a lot of message that comes through about we are creators. We are creators, but it's up to us to create for each other, and using our voices. Like, we've got 2 yonis. Our vocal fold is a yoni. It looks just like a vagina, and we create from here. We've got to start speaking our truth. We've got to start singing our truth. And on the one hand, I've gotten really good at saying, fuck you, man. And I used to be a people pleaser. But then when I started recognizing, like, I'm lying, I'm in a lie if I allow people to talk bullshit to me. And at first it's like really terrifying to be like, well, you can go fuck yourself then. And then I had to run
level. I am so at that level.
Yeah.
I'm at a point that I don't care if I offend you. I don't care if I make you angry, because what I'm doing is I do things for a reason. That's to trigger people to open their eyes and to accept that what you see is not reality. Your reality is dictated by a government or a dictator, or we have to wake up and accept your power as an individual, accept and own your power, and let that guide you. Because if you don't, you'll just be. There's a guy that I got introduced to. He's a pastor. His name is Pastor Greg from Tennessee, and he calls his congregation sheep, and he is the shepherd. Don't be that sheep. Be that wolf.
Right.
and we have to wake up and look at what is really in front in our faces. We have to understand that we are not given tomorrow. Are you making the best of today?
Right.
And making the best of today doesn't mean that you have to let certain situations ruin it. Take those situations, brush them off, move forward, and keep trucking. They're all right. We was born to learn.
Right.
We wasn't born knowing everything.
Right.
We are born, and we from the moment that we were born, we're learning. We're learning. That should never stop. We let it stop by letting people control our thoughts and the way of our thinking. That is when, and I like what Elizabeth said a little bit ago. I'm going to put it up here real quick. She says, man, our kids have so much to teach us. And that's exactly right. We have to start, we've lost that. We need to remind ourselves about those kid-like eyes, right? We have to look at the world like as a child. There's so much this world can offer us. We just got to accept it.
Right.
Not let the pre-programming dictate who we are going to be.
Right. Well, and they are the evolved consciousness. They're birthing in here, and there's a whole new wave of consciousness. Like my kids, and that was part of what the DMT showed me too. When I came out of the DMT and my girls were sitting there with the waterfall with me, and there was just something, I was still tripping, but I wasn't in that intense, music box or whatever. But my girls were sitting there, and I felt their consciousness. I felt the truth of who they were. And there's just a sweetness that a mama feels with their kids. There's just you feel the personality, you feel who they are inside of you. And we're not always cognizant of that essence, but in that moment I was very cognizant of the essence of my girls and recognized we're going to be okay, because they're of a completely different consciousness. And these aren't the only kids being born with this alternate consciousness. They are here, they carry the solutions within them. They're not bound to all the limitation. They're not bound to the lack matrix. They're not bound. We teach them that, but we can also unlearn it, and we can allow them to help us be brought out of it. So it's like if we're the bridge from the old paradigm to the new paradigm, they're standing in this new world going, come on, it's safe now. It's safe to come this way. And we make it safe for them. Woo! Our kids they're the ones with the solutions. They're the consciousness that, and I want to say, like, the Dalai Lama, I don't know why, but the Dalai Lama suddenly wants to be acknowledged, had said, it is the Western woman who's going to save the planet. And so, but you are the Western woman. I am the Western woman. We are this new consciousness where we allow all the creation energy to flow, where we allow our sexual energy to be creative and help add fuel and desire and passion to our creative energies, not just creating other humans, but creating a new paradigm, creating, reality is a blank canvas. And it's okay that we've had these that we experience the full spectrum of emotions, that we have these really awful, traumatizing experiences, because those give us depth. They give us depth, they give us dimension, they give us, they take us out of the shallow. And I channeled that Donald Trump was an archetype of the old paradigm, because for how many years or centuries or whatever, decades, were we all told, but especially the masculine psyche, told what success was? Oh, all these fucking people in their messages. All right. Sorry. Love. But no. And so it's like, we've all been told, like, the height of success is defined as being rich, being famous, being powerful, being a man. And so women are supposed to try to look for a man like this, and men are supposed to try to be men like this. And it's like, and so look at this powerful man, and then look at their partners. Have any of his wives been his equal partner? No. Has any of them, has anyone cared what lied in their minds? Fuck no. Has anyone cared what lied in their hearts? Fuck no. It just mattered that they're good looking. And as soon as they got old, he got rid of them and got a younger one. That's the height of success. So we needed this archetype placed up in front of all of our faces. And some people cheer on, yay, that's the hero, that's the height of success. And then so many of the rest of us are like, that's the best we can do? That's the height of achievement? That, I don't think so. And so whatever destruction they need to take everybody through, whatever they have to experience before they realize they raped everything that had value, and they put value to the most shallow fucking bullshit illusions, and let them destroy them fucking selves. Meanwhile, let's start planting creative, community gardens. Let's learn how to grow food on our own. Let's learn how to purify the water. Let's learn to sing to the earth so she can sing back to us and tell us what's safe to eat.
That's funny that you say that, because a few years back, I was told, I know I'm going to sound crazy by saying this, but I'm just going to. It was like I was given a vision of start gathering up people. It's going to be like a commune type of setting where there's going to be like this. I'm just telling you what visions I had. It was on a mountain, high elevation mountain, heavily wooded area. There's going to be acres of land, and I saw a community of tiny homes.
Wow.
So these people all live together as a community, self-sustained living, and that's been on my mind ever since it came to me about 3 years ago. I was like, and it's still stuck. It feels more, my conviction for it now feels more stronger now than what it did now. It's like saying, all right, it's time to start thinking about, taking life back a notch.
Right.
And not being so dependent on the government. And if you're off in the wilderness somewhere and on top of a mountain, you ain't got to worry about what's going on in other countries. All you got to worry about is what's going on in your community. You're surviving on your own. I don't know. That was given to me 3 or 4 years ago, and it's stuck with me, and it feels stronger. I feel strong about it even now, just because I feel like we're getting ready to embark on something that's going to change the landmark of the world. I believe it's going to change the footprint from this point on.
Right. And the value of the mountain, because I'm like, I was so happy in Asheville, North Carolina, but life always brings me back to Colorado. But my guides have shown me that too. Like, well, we want you close to a water source that you can drink, and I can hike up the mountain and I can get clean water. So that's going to be, so I feel like water is going to be an important. Water is so important. Water is life,
Water is life.
And Whew. And
Folks, I hope you guys are enjoying this night, because we are receiving messages,
yeah,
and we are giving them to you guys tonight.
so much love to all.
But yeah, I'm glad that I found someone else that has kind of the same idea that it was given to me, a vision or prophecy,
Yeah.
perhaps.
And that's just it. It's the new timeline, and it's something to give you vision to create your blank canvas, if you will, to paint reality.
I pictured Moses.
Huh.
I was told years ago when I was a child, when I was going to church and I was studying to be a youth minister, they told me that you're going to be like Moses when you get older. You're going to. I didn't put it together. I didn't put it all together at the time. But this pastor, or was actually a church member, had the gift of prophecy. According to, I was in a Pentecostal church at the time.
Yeah.
And they came up to me and says, God wanted me to give you a message. He goes, you're going to be a Moses. You're going to deliver the people from themselves, in a sense. You're going to free them, like what he did. He freed all these people.
Right.
And you're going to be that person. You're going to. And I didn't put it together at the time. But you're going to lead them to salvation. And then 3 or 4 years ago, I get this vision in my head of mountains and a community of like-minded individuals, self-sustaining, away from all that hardship, all that ugliness that the world is bringing.
And there are people who are doing it. I didn't go there, but I was aware of an intentional community in Western North Carolina that I was looking to. And here in Colorado, some years ago, there was a guy who had started the Happy Ass Ranch, and he had a big indoor, giant greenhouses and growing baby lettuces and all these things, and had it set up for a community. And of course, whatever, it wasn't protected. The vision wasn't protected, and there was authorities that came in. But so we can refine and strengthen our protection. And that's why it's so important for us to learn our magic. It's so important for us to start resonating with the truth of sovereignty and start recognizing the illusion of authority. And that's why I come after clock time, because clock time calendars are useful as a tool in this reality, but they should never have been established as an authority. But all of us are living our lives in fear, always racing the clock. We gotta appease the time god. And you talk about being thought crazy. Like I've had Saturn speak to me. As crazy as that sounds, but Saturn told me, and take it for what you want, Saturn told me I am not Father Time. I am feminine. I am the crone. Time is cyclical in nature, and that's what I go into in that video about time being cyclical. But Saturn downloaded me with all of that, and she said I am returning to my divine feminine energy, and we are all returning ourselves to our natural rhythms, our natural cycles, coming to attunement and alignment with what is actually happening, and honoring those cycles. And even like the sun is shifting back to the feminine, because we need the light of the feminine right now, and the moon taking on the masculine, because the masculine is so locked into this prison of a false time matrix, and the masculine needs to rediscover, like feminine bodies, we produce a monthly cycle. Like we can't quite escape it, but men are more easily imprisoned by it. But and again, we're all masculine, we're all feminine, and so that those parts of us are logical sides and our creative sides.
I have cycles.
Exactly, we do. We all do.
One would say at times that I go through that monthly cycle myself, and I'm a little grumpy.
Mm-hmm. Well, we do. We go through process, and then even like what's happening now. And I do astrology charts. I'm really good at, if I do say so myself, I'm really good at doing personal charts, looking at their individuals and then seeing where the planetary transits are, blah, blah, blah. But I don't follow it like some of these bigger, true astrologers like Kai Pacha and Molly McCord and, but one thing that I've learned from watching all of them is, like, right now, and this has been we've been waiting for this. The United States is experiencing its Pluto return right now, and I think it might have been at the exact minute of the return, because we have our degrees and then our minutes in the astrology wheel or whatever.
I just thought that video was just intrigued me on their point of view, how you explained it. Just really made sense. It does.
Thank you.
It really does.
Thank
Let's
you.
get to a comment real quick here. We
Okay.
got another one from. We have Elizabeth really engaged with us tonight. I'm really happy. She says,
Thank you, Elizabeth.
"We all have a voice and something to say, but sometimes we don't know how to speak it, so we look to those who can." Oh, wait a second. Thank you. You are one of those, Sid.
Yes.
You speak what others can't or don't have the courage to, and that's why we love you. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
yay for Sid,
Thank
right?
you for saying that.
And yay, Elizabeth. Like, totally, but feel free. Time does not, right.
Like
Exactly.
Christianity says, 1,000 years can be a day elsewhere.
Right. So it's like cyclical. And so in this solar system, you know, it's all about the cycles of where the Earth is in, you know, relation to the sun, and then all of the other planetary bodies, which again, I experience them as conscious beings who are also evolving. Our planet Earth is also evolving. And so time is more cyclical in nature. There's cycles. And I like
the world is cycling. It's on an axis. It spins.
Exactly.
It's a cycle. Everything on planet Earth has a cycle. Every single thing. And we tend to forget about that, don't we?
Right. And like the seasons, exactly. We measure it with our solstices and our equinoxes. And they studied all of that. And then that's how they figured out the year. It had more to do with food.
Farming. It was basically, witchcraft was founded by farmers.
Yeah.
And the essence of witchcraft, really, the very essence of it at the time, was based on harvesting, farming, surviving. So they would look to the moon and they looked to the stars to find the appropriate time to start planting the seeds. They would look towards the stars and the sky to order when to harvest, when to water, when to do certain things. They relied on time.
Right. On cycles. Exactly.
Cycles. Yes.
And they built temples so they could know, you know, and that was their and it's beautiful how it was such an all connected thing. It was all such a sacred song. It's all a dance.
And we're going to have to
song.
go back to
music.
that. Like you just said there, everything back then was sacred. And we're going to have to go back to that at some point. I feel it in my bones and my stomach that we're going to have to go back to that mentality and that way of living.
Right.
There's too many variables in the world, and for me, these are my opinions. Not everybody's going to agree with what I say, but I feel that that it's too many things that could happen to make society collapse, and then you're thrown in that situation unprepared and not knowing what you're going to do. We rely on everything, and society as a whole relies on the government and stocks and bonds and exchanges and
it's all made up.
And here we are.
It's all fake.
One snap of a finger, one push of a button, and it's all gone. Are we prepared for that? We are not. We are not prepared for that. Not even myself.
No.
I don't rely on government, but if the government collapses and the economy collapses, we're going to have to go back to that mentality, that way of living again. And a lot of us are not prepared for that.
No, none of us are. I'm not either. I do like my heater. I like running water.
We're going to have to ultimately reconnect with nature and Mother Earth.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to start preparing ourselves for that when that time comes.
Right.
I mean, I love Mother Earth and I love nature, but I'd be the first to tell you that I'm not prepared if something happens tomorrow and a world collapse begins. What am I going to do? How am I going to survive? And I don't want to sound like a doomsday prepper.
Yeah. Well, so then when you catch yourself going there, because then you are feeding into a fear paradigm. You're letting the frequency control take you
That
back
fear,
down.
I don't think it's fear for me. I think it's a warning sign to say it's time to get prepared. It's
So,
time
right.
to get ready.
So I would suggest when you catch yourself going in that place, I'm a student of Esther Hicks too, come back into your body. My counselor, Natalie, I love her. She's a light worker too. She said, first thing is say, where are my feet? And that, just stop whatever flow is happening here and just, where are my feet? Okay, where are my hands? Start breathing. Take a deep breath. Anchor yourself into the present moment. None of that's happening this moment. All these are potentials. We don't need to energize any potentials. Come back into energizing this moment now. Where are my feet? Take a deep breath. Where are my hands? And now coming back to that sacredness and relearning, rediscovering the sacredness of all that is. It starts with rediscovering the sacredness within. And when you honor the sacredness of being, you automatically, it's like almost like a spider web comes out and tethers into all the beauty. And there's so much love, and it's a higher vibrational frequency. And trusting enough that you can let go of that old fear paradigm. We can let that go. So many civilizations have disintegrated that we just don't have ties to anymore. And so same as this one, there's a huge, and that's what I was talking about, Pluto, the Pluto return of the United States. Pluto is the planet of destruction, but it's a phoenix energy. It destroys so that it takes the best of what was, and then it rebirths it. It's that phoenix energy, and then it rises up again, but it's the new, and that's that flame, that's that fire, that's that passion. And this may sound kind of weird, but everything I say is weird. But the earth told me she kind of likes fire. It's sexual for her. Like what humans experience as fire is terrifying, and that's sad. But the earth is like, oh yeah, set me free. Make me fertile again. And so again, reconnecting with the earth, nourishing the earth, speaking to the earth, loving the earth, and putting that same love into yourself and creating that connection. And I don't know what I'll do if and when all these things happen. I know that fearing it is not going to stop it. Nothing I can do can stop it so much. But what I keep receiving is, okay, we've shown you where you can get clean water. We've put you in a place where you will have access to clean water. And it's like, but that's how life is. Okay, make all these plans. Well, they don't fucking work out anyway. So just start trusting. And I don't know which beautiful speaker I've heard that said, trust is like, it's like driving at night and you've got your headlights on. And you're just going to trust that you're going in the direction that you're meant to go in. And you're only going to be able to see at most 200 feet in front of you. Probably not even that far, but you're just going to trust that the destination is awaiting you and that you will get there. And all you can see, just watch out for what's in front of you now. Don't drive off a cliff. Don't hit a tree. You know what I mean? Just be very present and it's all about presence, really, and staying focused within your body. And then when you have those urges, like I feel this urge, I must create. So anything from, I need to learn how to garden. I need to, but not out of a fear thing. It's like, okay, this is the urge. All right, I'm going to learn this. Or life will introduce you to someone who's been studying gardening and hydroponics or whatever the fuck. And that's where community comes in.
That is so ironic you say that, because I feel like there's people that's been placed in my life that have these certain talents that would be valuable to a community like I had the vision of.
Right. And so what if your job is just to be that prophet, that leader who keeps everybody's morale up, who reminds everybody that the power is within and the power is all around, and we are that. And it may not be, it won't be what we've left behind, but really, like, I think we can live without Reeboks. I think we can live without whatever electric cars and you know what, we may not move away from that. We may take that technology with us. We may not have to go without running water. We may have to, we may not, but I know I've seen there are inventors creating things that are so loving and honoring of the earth, that are still technology that still will allow us to live comfortable lives. We just have to be willing to let go and change.
Willing to let go of the fear that you're not going to be able to do it without all this technology that ties you into your everyday living. Having trust in yourself that you know that you can do this and this is the right direction that you need to go.
Exactly. And trusting and, again, cultivating that relationship with Mother Earth. And now, like, I listen to all these different people. There's a woman on YouTube named Amanda Flaker. And she's one person that I've heard channel the same stuff that I had never heard until I channeled it, which is cool, and it's cool to start seeing other people say things. And like, certainly they haven't heard me talk, yet they really were sincerely channeling the same information. But I don't embrace technology so much, although here we are. If it weren't for technology, we wouldn't be here. But I'm more about nature, the elementals, earth, air, wind, and fire. Really become friends with what are the energies, what is the consciousness in the wind, what is the consciousness in the water, and understanding these are our ancestors. They're inside of us. It's who we are. These are the ones. But then back to Amanda Flaker, she's been talking about how if we move forward with like technology, and a lot of people are putting a lot of fear around AI and all that stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to go into that, but for some reason it wants to come through. So I'll just talk about it. She's saying we don't have to fear. The more we expand our consciousness, the more we come into sovereignty. She talks a lot about sovereignty too. The more we allow ourselves to be the sovereign beings that we are, the more we'll understand how we can utilize all of this technology to better our lives and those of others. So don't fear the information that comes through. Allow it to take us forward. And even those who want to misuse all this technology and whatever, we can rise above. We are rising above that. We are shifting out of that. Those who are control hungry and who have put themselves in this place, it can't sustain. They won't say it will not sustain because it's not sustainable. And they'll destroy themselves before so we don't need to energize fear. There was something else that wanted, thank you for just letting me blah, blah, blah.
No, you're fine. I agree with you 100%.
But it's just so much about sovereignty. Sovereignty. We are free. I always want to sing that we're free. Free, and.
Oh, you stopping?
Yeah. Well.
I was dancing here. Do that again.
Okay. We are free. 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 Free. Oh,
damn.
What did we? Yeah, there was something I collaborated on something, and it was about we got to rise up. We got to rise up, people. We got to rise up. Now I'm just singing. Claim your freedom and take it home.
Yeah.
But that's part of how it's so funny. I do light work. I use light work to dominate my own frequency. I'm not trying to dominate anybody else. I dominate my own frequency. I feel like just like I am sovereign in my own body, I'm sovereign in my etheric body, my aura. And so I use light and sound and color frequency to create like filters. And instead of having walls that like close us in, sure, people can't get to us, but then it also prevents our expansion. But if we use light work to create our auras and build them up and strengthen them, and violet purple flame on the very edge, I learned that from the Pleiadian workbook. All of that. And then people have to adjust their vibrational frequency to interact with you. And I have seen people hit walls. I've seen people hit the violet purple flame and they could come no further because their vibration wasn't a match to where I'm at. and they were denied access. And so we have so much more power than we know. And again, my intention isn't to dominate anyone. My intention is to be an artist of reality, of my own reality, and then display it for others to see so they can see, wow, she painted her own reality.
You're being a beacon of light.
Right, right.
You're that lighthouse on that island to make sure that those ships don't hit shore.
Right.
Guiding them to the right path.
Right. And thank you. Well, and we all can do this. We all are channels. And that's another funny thing. Now I'm just talking. It's so interesting. I've been palm reading for like 13 or more years now. And the way my guides taught it to me, I approached it in a strange way. Somebody insisted on reading my palm. I told her no. She insisted, and then finally she read my palm and she told me the worst thing that I could be told, which it involved my kids. The most important thing she said, though, was the lines can change. So I came into palm reading backwards by saying, how do I get these fuckers to change? And as I started really becoming obsessed with the lines, I just started picking up what they meant. And then my guides started talking to me, and they said, we want you to learn 4 lines: headline, heartline, lifeline, and destiny line. We'll tell you the rest. And so that's how I go. And so whatever. But there's one line that they've made clear to me indicates that a person is a channel. And actually there's 2 lines. One says you're a channel like this in like a psychic, clairvoyant, or whatever way. In another way, people will be channels as artists and just creating. And so it's like one is more of a receiving line and one is more of a giving line. And some of us have 2. But what the point I want to make about that is that prior to 2020, I rarely saw a channel. It was such a rare thing. And then from March 2020 to March 2021, I barely gave any palm readings because it's hard to sell a palm reading during a plague. But then once I started doing readings again, it was like channel after channel after channel after channel. So many people have been opened up from all of this. And so that's where I come back to the astrology, and I keep wanting to talk about the United States is experiencing its Pluto return. Everything is meant to shatter. Illusions are meant to shatter. We're meant to shatter the paradigm of shallow control beings and people defining for us that you're successful as long as you're shallow. You're successful as long as you have as much material possession as you can. Like we're shattering all of that, and that's what Pluto's here to do. There's also a Neptunian thing which correlates to the witch trials. So Neptune on the 22nd degree of Pisces. Sorry, go off that. I don't mean to but I guess the reason for that is don't fear what we see happening in the world. That your power is within, and you can vibrate here. And anytime you see something you're afraid of, like countries invading each other, and oh my fucking God, come back to center. Prime reality is within. Distract yourself with the love that's in your heart. And then when you look at it, put on the rose-colored glasses and say, I know there are solutions. I know there are solutions to all of this. I know no matter how bad it gets, that's for whoever needs it. In the meantime, it's for me to, the more I stay in sovereignty and the more I vibrate at a vibrational level of sovereign expression and creativity, and I love myself, and what do I want to create, and what do I want to sing, and what do I want to do, and just go about your own world as if it's your world. And I can't say that we won't be affected by it, but I can say that if we're meant to be affected by it, we still get to choose our sovereign vibrational frequency. And you never know what solutions may come out of you if you're energizing solutions. La la la. No, sing it.
Fairlight, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight and sharing space.
Thank you.
This has been fun. This has been an interesting conversation and interesting topics that we've talked about tonight. But none of this was planned. None of this was planned. But I'm glad
I never have a plan.
But I'm glad it happened because it's something that needs to be said. People need to hear. So we have to start acknowledging ourselves for a change and stop acknowledging what others think about us and start worrying about it. I think it was a good subject to talk about.
Yeah, thank you.
So I really do appreciate you sharing space with us tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate you letting me come on.
Before we go anywhere tonight, I know that we got some people out here watching and enjoying the show. I want to do something really quick. If we can all just take a minute or so, and just a moment of silence and send some really good vibes to the people over in Ukraine right now that are suffering or have been taken away from their home. And the way I like to do that, if you guys are out there watching, it's just on the live feed, just smash that heart button. Just keep smashing it and smashing it and smashing it and smashing it. Let's send these people some love because they really, really need it right now. So we'll just take a moment and just send them that right there. Because how devastating the world has been turned upside down. They're left without homes, a place to go. You know, they have so many things they have to worry about now. Just take a moment and just send that love. And we're just going to be quiet. I'm going to be quiet just for a moment. We're just going to play a little bit of background music just to focus on what we want to do here. Thank you, everybody, so very much for hanging out with us tonight. Fairlight, thank you once again. I have to bring you on this again and have another sit down and talk. This has been a really great pleasure to have you on here in such a short notice. Because I just asked you a couple of days, you're like, sure, anytime. Thursday works for me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you letting me blah blah and flow.
You're letting me blah blah and flow though too.
Oh, I appreciate you. I'm a big fan.
Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I will catch you guys tomorrow. I will be on Talking with Demons tomorrow. I have a musical guest. Ren and the Berserkers are my pagan metal friends. They're going to be on the show tomorrow. Then we have a band called 60 Below that comes on Saturday. Both shows are going to be at 5 p.m. We just got a jam. And then Sunday, I have another Everyday Magic episode with my friends Celtic Rain. They're going to be on this show talking about their music. Maybe we might get blessed with playing some of their Celtic music that they have. So a big week ahead. So guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us, and thank you once again, Fairlight, for sharing space with us. Everybody out there, be kind, be safe, and take care. All right.
Love and peace. Thank you, Sid.
Thank you.
Bye.
I'm gonna find my outro video here.
Cool.
Maybe. Here we go.